We're good to go. We're live.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a conversation about life on planets. We're here in Maui, and we're going to talk to you about how we're not so special and why that's a good thing. My name is Jeff Kuhn, and I'm joined by Svetlana. You there?
Hello. Hello, my name is Svetlana Berdugina, and you can call me Dr. Svetlana.
And Kevin Surfer Legend Lewis is here too. Hi, Kevin.
Hello. Nice to see everybody again. Nice to see you, Svetlana. And you're in Germany right now, right?
Right. I will be next week somewhere else.
Okay, so today our conversation was about biomarkers, and that's a huge subject. One that's, of course, very important and delicate to us because we're interested in finding evidence of life, and of course that requires seeing a signal that we can associate with the existence of life. What's your definition of biomarkers, Svetlana?
Maybe we start from definition of life. What do you think?
Okay.
So, my definition of life is this is a substance. It can be matter, energy, or anything, which has a goal for its existence, and that goal to survive and propagate. And whatever we know about life on Earth, it's a mean. All these properties are means to achieve those goals, to survive and propagate as far as possible in time and space. So to feel in time and feel in space, this is the life. It's like a unstoppable matter in the universe. Soon the whole universe, the entire universe will be filled by life, and there will be no anything else, just life. That's my definition of life.
Well, that's pretty general. Kevin,
Yes.
what's life mean to you?
Great question. Yeah, life to me means kind of similar to Svetlana's, but something that uses energy, some type of energy to survive. To me, it doesn't necessarily have to replicate, but uses energy for its survival.
Absolutely, and these are the means, as I said, it means to survive. Using energy, sure. Jeff, what's your definition of life?
Oh, I think
Share with us.
life has to replicate. Anything that can reproduce, and as it reproduces, there's noise in the reproduction, I think ends up evolving into something that looks like life. Imagine that you had reproducing organisms over time, and some of them, for some reason, didn't succeed in reproducing. Eventually, the desire to reproduce, which we associate with ourselves, we want to live, we want to make babies, we want to be here for a long time. That evolution has to create that, because those elements of whatever we started with that didn't have that would have long since been overrun by this reproduction that occurs with what we're left with now. So I agree with most of that, but I think in general terms, you got to have reproduction, and then some noise in the reproduction to be able to have mutation.
I think reproduction can be replaced by growth. So the reproduction is one of the ways to propagate, true, but there are other ways to propagate, for instance, growth. So the single organism in the universe, which fills the entire universe, can be still life. It doesn't need to reproduce itself or multiply itself. It can be the single organism. I mean, this is very exotic, but it's not something that is excluded. It doesn't need to reproduce. I mean, one example, counter example, for instance, for reproduction is classical, is mule, which is offspring of horse and donkey. It cannot reproduce itself, but it's still life.
Yeah, so, but it wouldn't exist if we didn't have reproducing horses and reproducing donkeys.
Sure, but it stopped there. Mule dies and there is no life anymore. You know?
Yeah. No. Okay. All right. Well, let's take a definition then that produces a signal that we can find, and that's the biomarker that we're after, right? the, I mean, there's this other problem, right? In that the only example of life that we know about is here on Earth. It's enormous diversity in life here on Earth, but there's some universal properties of this life. And I guess I wonder, when we talk about biomarkers, we talk about things like methane or oxygen or molecules that we can see from a great distance as evidence of life. But are we missing something by by imagining that that's the only form that life might take?
Of course we do. I mean, one of the things is one of the ingredients you didn't mention is water. Water is very important for our existence, for the life on Earth, because it's a liquid, it's a substance in which chemical reactions take place. So, and when we talk about life, searching life, habitable zones, everything like what we define in astrophysics is, oh, it's just we want liquid water, you know. And of course, there are proposals beyond that. So, I mean, what can we do? We can replace water by what? For different temperature conditions, we can replace it by ammonia, liquid ammonia, or liquid methane, and that will be completely different type of life. It could be still chemical, organic based, but such important ingredient like water will be replaced because it will be in a different, under low temperature, it will be frozen, and ammonia and methane exist in low temperatures. So there could be planets where temperature is low and ammonia dominates, and here we are, we have organics based on ammonia reactions.
Couldn't you make the argument, though, that the majority of life we will find will be carbon-based just because it has the most opportunity to react with?
I guess this is hard to exclude. And ammonia can work with carbohydrates the same way as water works with them, and methane can do the same. So it's still carbon-based life because carbon is abundant. But of course, there are ideas to do silicate life. So maybe Jeff can talk about silicate-based life.
Oh, I don't know. Captain Kirk certainly did in some of those early Star Treks. And I remember, I mean, the diversity of our imaginations is, what was the science fiction story about creatures that lived on the surface of a neutron star? Of course, their time sense was complete. That was a really cool story. I can't remember. But yeah, all right. So you gotta kind of settle on what life means in order to find the biomarkers if we're going to open up the universe of all possible opportunities for what we look for. Okay. So your point is that water is a really natural ingredient, and I agree. It's a polar molecule. It supports. It dissolves most of what we need, and it seems to be the backdrop for the chemical reactions that make this reproduction that I think is really important for life. So does that mean that we have a chance of finding life? Let's just suppose it's water-based life. What's our best hope for a biomarker to find primitive life?
I think it is photosynthesis. I pushed on this, and because look, and on Earth, dominant life is photosynthetic, and we cannot just ignore that. It's photosynthetic dominant life, and so large biomass created by photosynthesis, and water is ingredient, and carbon dioxide is ingredient. Could be. There are some other suggestions for photosynthesis or chemosynthesis, things similar, thermosynthesis, things like using the thermal photons instead of optical photons. Anyway, so I think the photosynthesis should be very common. That's my opinion. And I mean, not only mine, but many others. And what we can search is like some organisms. This is super adapted to absorb certain part of the spectrum. The certain, we don't know, in Earth it's different and somewhere else can be different, but there should be some like rectangular shape biomarker, like which absorb in a certain color, like a black band, no light left on that color. So, and that will be clearly biosignature of photosynthetic life, something really, really broad and dark feature in the spectrum of a planet.
You buying this,
And
Kevin?
Easy to find.
Oh, well, here's my question. So, chlorophyll is what makes photosynthesis work, right?
One of them.
Okay.
Wait, there are others, right?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, there are many. Chlorophyll is the one of them. There are like 200 more biopigments which assist to absorb more and more light.
But can you capture optic? So life is about energy, right? And the reason why we're talking about photosynthesis is that's the easiest way for life to collect the energy that allows these chemical reactions to take place. So can you do photosynthesis without chlorophyll?
Yes, you can. There are other biopigments which can absorb. So there are carotenoids. Look at our skin; it's yellowish. So this is all, it's all photosynthetic. Our skin is photosynthetic because it produces carotenoids under sunlight.
But I can't survive by going out and laying on the beach. I still need
food. You heat up and you relax, and your other processes go very well in your body.
Even on Maui, I can't. Even on Maui, I can't live.
But I want to say that this is photosynthesis, which is not providing energy in our skin, but also other role. There is other role of photosynthesis. It synthesizes carotenoids to protect us from destroying DNA and other important molecules in our skin. So our skin produces carotenoids under
but that's not my question. Is are there plants that survive without chlorophyll?
Without chlorophyll, I'm not sure. I guess there could be such.
Homework problem, Kevin. Let's find the answer to that.
Yeah, there could be such. Bacteria, definitely. Some bacteria live without chlorophyll, I think. But chlorophyll is very, very widespread. Yeah.
So,
and other biopigments exist. This is what's called biopigments. Those which absorb certain.
They exist, but nothing's as efficient as chlorophyll or works as good as chlorophyll.
You cannot say that because we say, oh, it's chlorophyll. Everything is green because of chlorophyll. Not quite right. Because if you look at the absorption band of the chlorophyll, they're very narrow and so at certain places on the spectrum. But when you take a spectrum of a green leaf, it's really box-shaped absorption. And that very broad absorption band is due to many biopigments working together with chlorophyll. It's not only chlorophyll.
Okay, well, I think you're dancing around the idea that life involves energy, right? And I keep thinking of what was that movie, The Matrix, right? And I remember when I first saw The Matrix and they put people in these pods in order to extract their thermal energy. Remember the story? People were sort of living in a virtual world and their function was to create energy. I thought that's crazy. The amount of energy that people produce is insignificant, but it's not. Yeah. It's not insignificant. But most of life is about energy production, and the few hundred watts that we produce continuously is an important part of the overall energy budget of the whole planet. So, I mean, that raises the point that the ubiquitous biomarker that we've been thinking about, and of course we've written some papers about this, is that as life gets more advanced, we even use more energy, and that
absolutely,
using the first law of thermodynamics, it says that all the power that we use eventually ends up as heat in the environment, is a marker that if you could see it, right, against the thermal emission of a planet, is something that's very hard to hide and could be independent of the particular chemistry that we're looking for.
Yes. This is for more advanced life, which has consumed more and more energy, definitely. But even for plants, it's very interesting that plants reflect infrared light, so they reflect heat as well.
Yeah.
So in principle, like chlorophyll plants, I don't know, bacteria in this sense that they reflect the infrared light, and that also kind of rejected heat, and in principle, one can say it's not necessarily life doesn't have to be too advanced to produce heat. It doesn't produce it, reflects it. Of course, if you go to consumption, energy consumption, then this intelligent life like us, we unintelligently consume too much energy, or will consume too much energy. We could live a little more economic, I guess.
Yeah, but if you extrapolate that into the future, where life is really then eventually just about information, right? Suppose we all go live up in the cloud and we abandon our bodies and we hit the singularity, and it's just, life is just this process of information manipulation that requires, by thermodynamics, power.
Yes, and then, there is another science fiction story by Isaac Asimov. He wrote it in 1960s. A very short story about man and woman who became like electromagnetic waves in the universe, and they're floating around. And then the man and woman have a conversation like, oh, remember those times when we had bodies and we could touch each other? And now we're just electromagnetic waves. Well, life has changed so much since then.
Boy, looking
I will
back.
have to pick that short story and read that. That's funny.
Yeah, I read it. It's just one page, a couple of pages. Really nice. Yeah.
All right.
So what's next after that? How would we enjoy life being just energy or by just information in a cloud? Life will change. What I realized is that if whatever we do, we discover this extraterrestrial life at some point, hopefully and surely, we will change. We will definitely change. I mean, it's like thinking that, oh, we're just looking for curiosity and the rest will be the same. It's a little different. We will change. We will become
what do you mean by
something
that?
completely
By
different.
will change?
Well, we are part of life which evolves, which propagates, which wants to survive, and by any means, like also Star Trek movies shown. So I guess we'll change. We'll adapt to new strategy of survival.
Yeah, and I think, right, part of evolution, technology is a part of natural evolution. And as biological sort of wet chemistry evolves, and it's that wet chemistry that engendered the technology that exists now, and we're seeing the integration of wet chemistry with technology, and that's all going to be something that accelerates evolution and the transfer of. It's about information ultimately, right? How much information passes from one generation to the next. And you're right. Of course, we're going to change, and the meaning of life, or our understanding of life, I think is going to shift. It's going to shift in the time scale of our kids. And as we find life in the universe, because I think all of us believe that life is not isolated here to this planet, we get to see how the global interconnectedness goes from just our own ecology to an ecology that extends beyond the solar system. Probably
It'd be
Absolutely.
interesting to think about how long that actually takes, though. Like, how long does that transformation of mindset take? I would imagine it's longer than we'd all like to think, right?
Well, what they say, I mean, psychologists say that the gap in generation which separates us from our parents is larger than separates our children from us. So the gap grows with every generation. That is, I mean, indication of the progress we have in technology.
By gap you mean just what we learned as kids and what life was like, and life is, of course, incredibly different now.
Yeah, that's how we perceive life as well.
Yeah. All right. So biomarkers again.
Yes. Here's a question. So is what mixture? Can you guys speculate? Psychomarkers. Can you speculate on the mixture of elements that we could detect that would definitively say life, like oxygen mixed with methane mixed with, I don't know, a couple other things that could raise the probability from 50% to 99%?
Well,
like what mixture of should we
exactly the
for?
same as an Earth, you know, exactly the same. So once we find exactly the same Earth number 2, then we know
hundreds,
that there is
right?
life.
well, the big search is to find water, right? Let's find a planet that has evidence of water, and then for sure, right, we'll be looking for oxygen, and we'll be looking for methane, and we'll be looking for those gases that are somehow transient or imply biological activity, although again it's based on the prejudice of the life that we know on Earth.
Yeah,
On
our personal perception of that, yes. Or from the point of view of this humanity or life, terrestrial life, basically. On the other hand, there are works now showing, I mean, that is kind of also, we knew that from solar system, that exoplanetary society, exoplanetary community realized recently, but it's known in solar system that oxygen can be produced by abiotic processes, like water can dissolve by under solar wind, under solar radiation. Water dissolves on oxygen and hydrogen, and then that atomic oxygen can produce molecular oxygen, you know. And so that if there is a lot of like solar flares, you know, stellar flares, if the planet is under super radiation from the star, superactive star, you can have this really enormous photolysis, produce a lot of abiotic oxygen, and then you detect it and say, hey, there is oxygen, there is a leftover of water, maybe a little bit, and maybe there is volcanic activity, there is a methane. So that could be a very possibility that we see everything like on Earth, but it's not due to life, it's due to this cosmic and planetary processes. So this what we call false positives. It's positive, but it's false.
But I think there's some other molecules in all of the ultraviolet processes that dissociate water and make oxygen. The concentrations are different, and I think there's some other molecules that are indicative of those dissociation processes that might give us a hint that it's abiotic.
Yes.
Right. So I think there's, you know, with enough chemistry and enough resolution and enough photons, there's a possibility of actually making strong arguments that oxygen is biotic.
Of course, abiotic. We have a very good, you know, very good tools to understand it. We have our models, you know, we can build so many models, we can predict so many different effects, and then we say, okay, we can model anything, you know, our theory claims that we can model anything. So once we detect something, we can, you say, oh, there are so many possibilities to explain it. We can model anything, you know.
Sure, that's the only problem I have with this. It's kind of like with the Higgs boson. Like, it's not like we actually detected it, right? I mean, we're like, all the scientists got around and said, most likely we found the Higgs boson. And the same thing goes for life. Like, unless we actually have a picture of it, it's more of just a approximation of probability. I don't know.
Well, yeah, but that's what science is, Kevin. Come on.
That's what science is.
I mean, everything is seen through the filter of some amount of uncertainty.
Probability.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, it's a philosophical question as well. In philosophy also, they say you cannot reach absolute knowledge. You can only approach it, yeah? So like get closer and closer to the absolute knowledge, but you cannot reach it.
Okay, so
it's a philosophical question.
Let me throw out that so there is from the MIT group a recent paper that has a big catalog of what Sarah Seeger's group thinks of as possible biomarkers too. We should include that in our notes for the conversation.
Yeah, those are yes, bunch of molecules which can be introduced by photolysis or some decays of bigger molecules or some processes leading from life and so on. So there are a bunch of them, and you can think of many. Probably don't find all of them, but if you're lucky, you find couple, and maybe that's a puzzle. It's a new.
But let me throw out what I think is an argument. Well, okay, so on one side of the argument, we say, well, in the past we thought that the Earth was special, and of course this is our theme, and it's this discovery into the into knowing that actually what we thought was special was just one case of many examples. The Earth is not the center of the solar system. The sun is not the center of the galaxy. We have to think not so ethno,
Exactly.
and bio and sciocentric in our views. So when we're skeptical about other forms of life, we have to bear in mind that every time we've thought life or our existence had to be the way it is, we found out that, of course, it isn't. Now, on the other hand, there is this argument, and Ed Turner has made this argument very strongly, that life is just a very, very rare special event, and that it's so rare to be able to, well, and maybe there's some evidence of that.
Why? Why it's rare? I think it's very common.
Well, okay, on the Earth it's very common, but it could well be, and here's part of the argument. When you look around and you see all of the forms of life on the Earth, they all have exactly the same base pair sequence. The alphabet for life is only the base pair, and that goes from the extremophils that live off of the energy in thermal geysers. Right, their energy doesn't come from the sun; it comes from a thermal source.
Yes,
Yet for some reason,
yes, I mentioned that. Yeah.
Yep. They have their energy source is not the sun ultimately. I mean, our energy source is the sun indirectly because we eat plants, but every one of these life forms has exactly the same alphabet that transfers information from one generation to the next, the same base pair sequence. And last week we talked about how there may be a cosmic universality to life, that it started somewhere else if you look and trace back the complexity and the evolution of life. Maybe it's true that life is this special circumstance that allows this set of base pairs to work, to transfer information, happened by accident billions and billions of years ago, probably before the Earth formed, was transferred by diffusion through the galaxy, and there aren't other forms of life. It's possible, and again, the problem is this sort of anthropic principle that if we try to understand the only thing that we are, it may be that what we see is because there was just a very rare circumstance that led to conditions that could.
This is a kind of pessimistic view. There are optimistic views that life is everywhere. Life was immediately here on Earth as a form.
But this doesn't exclude that.
And maybe it was also on other planets, and we don't know. Maybe it was also there.
No, this doesn't exclude that. I do think life is everywhere, but I think that it might be that life is in fact
just all the same everywhere.
Wouldn't you be amazed if we discover life on Prox B, we start to use remote sensing with Colossus or one of the telescopes we're talking about, and we find out that it has the same biological molecules.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. But we know this amino acids, which life is based on, can be created by simple processes, by this Yuri Miller experiment, just in a glass bottle, having some discharges, electrical discharges, and it would produce lots of amino acids.
No,
and
then
doesn't. You create other conditions. They go in. Of course,
you make amino acids, but you don't make life. You don't make anything close to the sequence.
No, but the alphabet is based on simple molecules. These base pairs. The chemical formula is very simple. It has few molecules connected. Very simple molecules. And sure, why these four? That's the question. And there are many opportunities to create something similar. Why those 3, 4, or 5, including one in the RNA? So 5 base pairs used here. So I don't know. That's a question.
We need to get a mathematical biologist, an evolutionary biologist, into this conversation. let's do
Yeah,
that.
I know one. I know one. We can invite him. Yeah. So
Yeah, we do too.
yeah.
Kevin, what do you think?
Yes. Speculations on Europa having life. What do you guys
Oh
think about
yeah.
that?
Cry robot. Crybot. You bought Crybot. Yes, why not?
Cryobot?
Crybot, it's called. Yeah, the one which drills through the ice and goes into the ocean with a little light and searching for life all over
Yeah.
like this. Crybot.
Yeah, but I mean, we know we just mentioned an extremophile that could well exist in that environment. Something that extracts its life energy from, in the case of Europa, it would be the internal heat of the planet, right? The thermal environment in the water underneath the surface.
Yep.
I'm guessing we got a 50-50 chance of finding life there, and I will wager that it's DNA based with the same base pair sequence of amino acids that we know here.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be
What
amazing?
about Titan? Look, on Titan it's easier to get, but I mean on Europa you have to drill, you have to be sure that there's ocean, and you bet now your head on this. I'm sorry. You go to Titan, and it's on the surface. We have lakes, we have rivers of methane, ethane. We have a good pressure in the atmosphere. Okay, it's a little chilly there, minus 150 Celsius. So how much in Fahrenheit? I don't know. So, and then it's just on the surface. We just go fishing
Yeah,
in
but
those lakes and get fish, you know?
it's not water based. You'd have to invent some new
It
chemistry.
doesn't matter. It's all organic. Doesn't methane
Well,
and ethane? No, ethane is a bit heavy, but methane and can be a molecule. Actually, was shown can be molecule to create to play this role of water to create longer molecules.
my only speculation with that though is like if you plopped a random probe on Earth anywhere, you're pretty much going to see life. It's what Titan. So you're saying Titan might just have life in certain little corners? Like
Lakes?
we've taken
Not certain little. There are so many lakes there. It's just all over. There's no ocean, but lakes are just. It's like
Yeah, okay.
in Canada, you know.
But,
Like
Why
but
wouldn't they say
lakes,
just in the
wait,
lakes
these are
versus on the
lakes.
actual?
These are not lakes of water. Okay, let's be clear.
these are methane, liquid
these are
methane mixed with
methane lakes.
ethane. Yes, I said this. And the fish also consist of the same things, you know. So you get methane fish. So
Delicious.
delicious for some, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But by the way, you say if you go with the probe anywhere on the Earth and you find life, that's also not true. You know, these Viking probes, they were tested in the Atacama Desert and they couldn't find life there. So, you know,
Well,
Sure.
drop it
even
in the
though there is
Arctic.
life there.
Drop it in the Arctic, and drop it in the Arctic, and you won't find any on the surface of it.
Yeah.
Although maybe that's
I
not
do have a
true.
question.
Maybe they're
I
bacteria.
do have a question.
Sorry, go.
No, you're good. You're good. Sorry. I've heard red edge being talked about a lot. Can you explain in a simple way what that is? Red edge, and there's other edges. I don't understand what that is.
That's easy. We talk about chlorophyll, and on the red side of the absorption by chlorophyll is a very sharp band, which kind of cuts the spectrum. That's why I was talking about the rectangular absorption bands. So that red edge is in a like very in close to our visibility, basically. But if we use spectrograph, we can say. So this is like a sharp change from the reflected light in the infrared to the optical light which is absorbed. So you see spectrum, something like this, a step-like function, like this. So that's called red edge. And it's red because it's in the red color. So that's caused by chlorophyll. But if you say, okay, there could be some other biopigments, then this edge can be shifted, you know, like other biopigments would have a different edge. So if there is life with different biopigments, that edge is shifting. But the idea is that if there is an edge of this kind and a broad band of absorption, then we can talk about photosynthetic organism adapted to maximum absorption.
Another way of saying that is that chlorophyll looks green because the absorption is in the red, and
Right.
so The green color comes from that red edge towards longer wavelengths where it absorbs energy.
Yes, chlorophyll absorbs in the red and also in the blue, and there is a little bump in the middle which doesn't absorb, and that's why everything else looks green.
Right. There you go. Thank you. I didn't. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the question says, why leaves are green?
Right.
It's because there's this little bump, kind of, which chlorophyll doesn't absorb, you know, in the green. So, do we have time to talk about technomarkers, or we leave this subject for the next time?
I think we leave it for the next time. Let's
Okay.
let's plan on some talk about Kardashev 1, 2, and 3, and what civilization.
Dyson sphere and kind of that interesting thing.
Yeah.
Those interesting. Again, Star Trek. You know, in Star Trek they use Dyson sphere as that's once this Enterprise reached the planet Dyson sphere. You know, so we can use that. Wow, they say there is a Dyson. Knock, knock the door. Dyson sphere. Let me in.
Okay. All right. We'll let you in next week.
All right.
Okay. We'll be your Dyson sphere.
It's fun. Yes.
Okay, Kevin.
So we do it on Monday then, yeah.
Monday.
Yeah, next week I think we're doing Monday. If we can all do the same time, that'd be great.
Yes, that would be great. Yes.
Okay,
thanks a lot. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Kevin. It was fun.
Yeah, nice hanging out. We will see everybody next week.
All right. See you then.
Bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.